Yes, people, welcome back to the 53rd episode of the Backpacking Cycle. In today's episode, we're going to discuss the courage to face yourself. And when you embark on this journey of self-development and self-improvement, there's going to be insecurities that come in your way, anxieties, and there's going to be a lot of discomfort facing your own mind because you're developing an understanding of who you are as a person and you're wanting to improve yourself. Inherently involved in that is the need to push past discomfort, is to develop the mechanisms in your mind to push past fears and insecurities and anxieties. And this is going to be tough. It's going to be hard. And it's things that I've dealt with my whole life. But through this process of getting better and facing your fears and coming to peace and tranquility with the way you are and your insecurities and anxieties is going to allow you to get further on in life. And it's going to allow you to let go of preconceived judgments you have about people, about yourself, and a lot of what is holding you back right now, a lot of the things that you're struggling to improve on, the reason why you could be anxious or afraid or you've got this fear of life is because there is a shadow side of you that is not being dealt with. There is things sitting in your subconscious that you are suppressing and you're not dealing with, and self-development is the process of coming to the realization of these mechanisms that are holding you back, understanding your perceptions of reality and the perceptions of who you are as a person and integrating them into your conscious awareness and using them in a productive manner instead of letting them subconsciously controlling your behaviours. So this is what this podcast is going to be about. I think first, before we get into how I would recommend doing this process, I think it's important for me to tell you my story. And if you've heard the podcast, obviously you've heard it many times, but I kind of want to frame my story in this kind of hero's journey, shadow work framework, because I think it will help you understand the concepts of what is going to be this podcast. So obviously when I first started off, this was 18, 19, I went to university and I was just going out getting smashed all the time. I was just doing loads of drugs, drinking loads of alcohol. I had like severe social anxiety, and I was hiding all this by using substances to give me confidence, and so I was suppressing all of my emotions. I was never allowed to like be myself because I had to portray this certain persona of this party character or this lad who is Alex Rogers. So my self-development was suppressed because I wasn't allowing myself to be who I was. The idea of me wanting to be like on self-improvement and talk about the things I was interested in was so suppressed in the back of my mind that I like formulated this other persona on top of me. So I was just acting out another person. I was never allowing myself to be myself. So I had like severe social anxiety when I was sober. Like I couldn't even speak to women. I couldn't look at people in the eyes. I had severely low confidence. Like I couldn't socialize with people. I had no belief in myself to achieve things, and this was coming out in horrible ways. It was coming out in me being very insecure, me drinking and taking substances, me distracting myself with video games, with social media, and also me just never taking any big risks and always playing life on like the safe side. And the longer I instilled this, the longer I tried to portray this persona of this person, this party character, this person I want to be, the more like depressed I got and the more anxious I got, and the more I found I was like having less control over the way my mind was operating. I was starting to get more and more negative thoughts. I was starting to get more anxiety. My body was starting to feel unsafe. I would get like massive like heart like palpitations in conversations. I'd get like massive brain fog, really like running out of breath, didn't know what to do in my hands. I was always feeling like insecure about the person I was. I was always thinking about ways how I could come across to other people, was over analysing conversations. And this was just my day-to-day life. I literally lived life in this like mode of survival. And when I dropped out of university, I came to the realisation that like it all just hit me at once. It's like I can't live life like this. There is no way I'm going to get through life being in this constant state of distraction, avoiding the person of who I am. So yeah, I embarked on this journey of self-improvement, and through this process of the last like 4 years of really integrating the person I am into my own character, into my conscious awareness, and developing an understanding of like how to operate in this world and how to actually be authentic and how to overcome fears and anxieties, I've got to the point today where I can sit on this podcast, help people, and yeah, one thing I do want to say is like this version of me that you see now is not the final version. I still suffer with so many anxieties, so many insecurities, but this is a necessary step for me to get to the point where I'm a fully integrated person and I'm where I want to be, where I'm fully confident in myself. I think people think change is going to be instant. Like you're going to decide to change and the next day you're confident, you're shredded, everything's happened for you. But all self-improvement and all coming to the true realization of your insecurities and anxieties is a process. And from unlocking the inner parts of your mind, from letting out these perceptions of insecurity and anxiety, there's going to be difficulties that come up with that. You're going to bring up strong negative emotions. You're going to feel depressed. You're going to feel anxious. But you need to let these emotions come to your conscious awareness for them to be let go and to be dealt with. Because if you're constantly suppressing them, like I was before, they never get dealt with and they just bubble up in your conscious, in your subconscious, and they come out in your behaviours and actions. But when you have the courage to embrace your insecurities, when you have the courage to embrace the parts of you that maybe scare you a little bit or you don't like, then you can allow it to come up to your conscious awareness and you can integrate it and you can deal with it. And it's that, yeah, let's just get on to the rest of it. That's my story anyway. I'm at a point now where I still suffer with like anxiety and depression, and it's just a process of I'm getting better every time I deal with these like mini rots I go into. Every time I deal with a new insecurity or anxiety, I'm calloused in my mind to be courageous, to be strong, and these insecurities have less effect on me. And sometimes you can think like progress is going slow, or you're not making the progress you want, or you're actually like regressing, but you've just got to like take a step back and look at where you've come from and realize that like the insecurities you're dealing with now are better insecurities than what you was dealing with 5 years ago. And that's kind of the process I'm in at the moment. Like I still have like mini mental breakdowns sometimes where my mind just gets too loud and too noisy, and it's just constant like, you're not good enough, why are you standing like that, why are you talking like that, people think you're weird, what are you doing with your life, you're still working at Marks and Spencer's. All these thoughts are just like popping up in my conscious awareness all the time. And it's because I allow myself to sit there with them thoughts. I could easily just go and distract myself and not let them thoughts arise to my conscious experience. But I know from my own personal experience that they bubble and they come out in my behavior in like nasty ways I like integrate with people, the way I socialize, the way I act with my food, my workouts, the way I look after myself. It all comes out in my behavior if I don't let it bubble up to my conscious awareness. So yeah, I'm currently in the stage at the moment where like my mind's so noisy and I'm dealing with so many insecurities, but it's because I'm trying to tackle them head on. And yeah, you just need courage in these times. Like it's going to be difficult, it's going to be hard, but to be courageous in these moments when you're facing your insecurities and you're facing the things that make you scared is the only way forward, because by embracing them, you're taking away the importance of they're something you should be ashamed of, and you're allowing yourself to be okay with who you are. So that's my story. And I think in like 10 years time, 15 years time, when I'm a lot more integrated and I've been on this journey for like 10 years, 15 years, I'm going to look back at this time and think like, wow, he was on like a crazy journey of just allowing himself to be, and he was really tackling the things that made him insecure and anxious, and he was really diving into the depths of his psyche to fully integrate himself into the person he wants to be. And so it's a process like anything. So let's get on to like the actual contents of the podcast now. So first I want to talk about like embracing the work and finding the courage, which is something I've just alluded to in my own story. But you have to come to the awareness that you have things that are holding you back. And if you've got too strong of this persona around this person that you are, you're not going to be aware of the little habits that you do, or the little ways you behave, or the thoughts that arise in your brain that are coming from a place of insecurity and anxiety. You need to start becoming aware of why you think like this, why you behave, why you're not achieving your goals. You need to find the courage to face yourself and start delving deep into your own psyche, because without this, you're going to rather chase goals and you're going to chase jobs and you're going to chase relationships that aren't actually aligned with who you are. They're going to be aligned from a place of insecurity and a place of fear. Or you're going to spend your whole life playing it safe and you're never going to go out there because you're actually going to be subconsciously controlled by fear that you're not consciously aware of. So you need to find the courage to embrace who you are as a person. And this starts with like inner work. It starts with you diving into your own psyche and like getting clear on what you want. Where do you want to be in 10 years? What do you want to do? What is holding you back right now? How could you get to where you want to be in 10 years? What faulty perceptions do you have about the world, about yourself, about the people around you? And really start working on yourself. This is where like you need the courage to go inwards and start being truthful and honest with yourself. And as I said, it can be scary, it can be hard, because you see parts of yourself that you don't like. You realize that maybe you're not as confident as you thought you was, or you're not as capable as you thought you was. Maybe there is a reason you have anxiety and it's from a trauma in your past and you need to like deal with that. But this all comes from finding the courage to like actually start working on yourself. So the problem why people don't do this, the common theme why I see people never embark on this journey and why it's so rare for people to actually approach the journey of self-actualization is because they're in a perpetual state of distraction. We live in a society now where distraction is everywhere, from the foods we eat to social media to entertainment to substances, alcohol, cigarettes, wherever it is, there's always something around us that we can quickly distract ourselves with. And because when thoughts arise in our brain that are negative, or we get negative feelings and emotions, it's very hard to sit with them negative thoughts because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable if you're getting feelings of anxiety. It's uncomfortable if you're getting pressure from your own mind about what you're doing with the future. And because you've got this incapability to sit with that, you start reaching out for distraction. You go to sit on your phone, or you go for something that takes you out that current mindset, and that might feel good in the moment. You might actually seek pleasure from this, because the pleasure of alleviating the symptoms of your own mind is like taking off a really tight shoe at the end of a day. You're like, you get that moment of relief, but the next day you've just got to put that shoe back on again. And this is your mind. You might get a momentary bit of peacefulness away from the contents of your mind, but them thoughts that you've just suppressed by distracting yourself are going to go deeper into your subconscious, and they're going to emerge later on with more a vengeance. They're going to be more frequent because you're not dealing with them. So this is why this is kind of like the basis of addiction. People are so addicted to external distractions like substance use, like social media, like entertainment, because it alleviates them from the symptoms of their own mind, and they're not even consciously aware of this. They just do this naturally. When a negative thought arises, when a negative emotion arises, they instantly grab their phone, and they're so unconscious with that process that it's just become natural. It's become a habit. But the more they do this, the more they're suppressing the negative emotions and the things that need to come up to their conscious awareness, the deeper the roots them negative things are going to have, and the more frequently they're going to come out. So at the basic of every addiction is people use an external substance or an external distraction because it alleviates the symptoms of their mind, and they get this false illusionary sense that that external phone or the external distraction, substance, whatever it is alleviating their symptoms, when in reality it's actually making their symptoms worse because it's suppressing the emotions that are going down into their subconscious. So your phone addiction, your addiction to YouTube, your addiction to scrolling through Instagram, your addiction to cigarettes, your addiction to going out on the sesh, all it's doing is suppressing your emotions, suppressing the things that need to come to your conscious awareness, and it's going to make them worse later on. So you kind of just, you're not dealing with the problem, you're just putting it off for a later date. And people spend their whole life doing this, and they never actually get down to what they actually want to do. And all these things that are being suppressed are coming out in ugly ways in their actions and their character. And they just become these resentful, depressed, anxious people without even being aware of that. And if you want that to be your life, then you're going to live a very sad and depressed life, because you never actually come into true realization of the person you are. You're never going to reach self-actualization, which is the thing that gives you purpose and drive. So this perpetual state of distraction is probably the biggest cause of why people never embark on this journey. And the more you strip the more you strip back these distractions, the more you take away your excessive social media use, the more you allow yourself to be bored and sit with your thoughts, the greater you're going to start understanding these thoughts, and you can start like planning and dealing with them. This is another thing that like boredom in itself, that feeling has been evolved from an evolutionary point of view for us to find something better to do with our time, for us to realize what we're doing is not good enough. What we're doing now with our current time and the context of our mind needs to be changed, and we need to embark on a journey to like do something more productive. But because boredom's been wiped out from the bottom of our society due to the natural tendency of humans to constantly distract themselves, we are now never bored. So we're never getting true insights into the way our mind needs to be operated on, to the way we should be like facing our insecurities and our anxieties. So like start embracing boredom as well. Allow yourself to like sit there and have nothing to do, because you're going to like slowly figure things out as that happens. So yeah, this perpetual state of distraction we're in is such a shame that our society lives like this, and people are no longer becoming their true authentic selves. We're just becoming programmed by these distractions, and we're cultivating these personas, and we're just living in these personas instead of realizing the true person that we are. So these suppression of emotions, as I said before, the suppression of the emotions, the thoughts, the feelings, the more you suppress these, the more you don't want to deal with the insecurities around women, the anxieties around getting a new job, the feelings of inadequacy you have around like accomplishing something. The more you don't deal with them, the stronger they are going to get. It's like they form their own life force, and like every time you suppress them, you're just feeding this hungry emotion or this hungry feeling, and it's growing larger, and it's having more and more influence over your actions. It's making you more scared to take action without you consciously knowing. So the more you resist things, the more they persist. You need to stop resisting things, because if the more you resist, it's just going to stay in your mind and persist and persist and persist. And you don't want to spend your whole life doing that, because you'll never get anywhere. It's interesting how like we think we're kind of free in the sense of we have choice over what we want to do. We believe that like we live in a society which is has like unlimited opportunity. Like I can go and get a new job, I can go and speak to any girl I want, I can go and do whatever we want, really. You have like a freedom of choice, you kind of have free will. But when people think they're free, I think they're getting this confused with liberty and freedom. So freedom is freedom of mind. So you have a freedom over what you want to do, and you don't get swayed by your mind. Like you can like have something to do regardless of how you feel, and you do it. Liberty is you have a freedom in society to do what you want. So you have the freedom to go up and get another job, and you have the freedom to sleep wherever you want. You have a freedom to get a house, blah blah blah, all these things. That is liberty. We have liberty in a sense of we can do whatever we want, but we don't have freedom, because we're also caved in by our own minds. We're all slaves to the ego. We're all slaves to the persona that we've like cultivated. And it's a shame how we think we're free in a sense, but we're truly not, because in reality the true me wants to be like confident around women. He wants to be able to go and speak to any woman he wants. He wants to be able to be this like really good PT who can help people. But I am not free because I can't actively pursue them goals, because my mind is stopping me from doing that. And so the more I suppress my emotions and listen to my mind, the harder it's getting to take action. So I'm actually enslaved by my own mind, and that's how we're not free. And the whole process of this shadow work and this self-inquiry is to become free from the prison cell of your own mind. And by doing that, you're slowly gaining more and more autonomy over the things you want to do. So at the moment, I've got insecurities and anxieties around like women and getting a new job, doing this and doing that. And I've been like trapped in by my own mind. And the more I start dealing with this, the more I start embracing these challenges and start overcoming the insecurities that are holding me back, the more freedom I'm getting to choose and to put myself on the right path. Use this podcast, for example. A year ago, I would have never have been able to put myself out there to the internet like this. I would have been too insecure and too anxious about what are people going to think. Are people going to think I'm being weird? But through embarking on this inner journey, I can now post myself out to Instagram and not care what people think. I can have conversations about things I want to talk about. And I've slowly gained freedom in that part of my life through embarking on my own journey. And every little bit of improvement you want in your life, you have to slowly chip away at the things that are keeping you slaved in and start becoming free. So a good little way of doing this to understand where you're not free is look at what you want to achieve. What does the true you want? What are the common themes in your minds that are constantly coming up? Is it that you want to sleep with a load of women? Is it that you want loads of money and you want a new job? Is it that you want to get in shape and get shredded? Ask why you have not achieved them goals. Why are you not making progress towards them things? And when you do that, you'll come up with excuses. So you might have an excuse like, I haven't got enough time, or like, girls think I'm weird. That girl I find attractive, or she might have a boyfriend, or she might not want to speak to me. And you'll come up with these excuses, right? And these excuses are stemming from fears that are holding on in your subconscious mind. So once you get these excuses, once you start rationalizing why you're not achieving these things, start diving deep into these rationalizations. Start asking yourself, what is the motivation behind that excuse? That excuse that I've just come up with for why I'm not approaching loads of girls, what is the motivation behind that? And you'll find out, oh, it's actually because I've got a fear of being rejected, or I've got a fear around women. I'm actually scared of being who I am around women because I think they're going to be weird, and I believe I'm inherently flawed. And the more you do this, the more you dive into these excuses and your insecurities and your anxieties, the more you're going to be aware of your current perceptions. And everything is perceptions for us, right? We just see the world through our perceptions. We have like a value hierarchy of how we see things. Like, just think about it. There is an infinite amount of things that you can look at in reality. You go into a room and there is so many things to look at. So how does your mind order what to look at and what to put your attention on? It's through your perceptions. So whatever you perceive is important, you put your attention on. So if you look at a woman and you get anxious, that's because you have perceptions around that woman that she is someone that makes you anxious because you've had beliefs that you're not good enough around women or whatever. So your mind is putting its attention on that woman and interpreting that woman in that way because that's what you perceive and that's what you value. So the more you do this internal work, the easier it's going to become to look at these faulty perceptions and start deprogramming them. You can start deep rooting them. But without becoming aware of them first, you don't know what to improve. You don't know what to work on. So first of all, you need to understand your perceptions about reality, understand your perceptions about how you see the world, about how you see women, about how you see other people, how you see your career. And you can do that by finding out what you want to achieve and why you're not achieving it. I think that questioning yourself and trying to dive into the mechanics of your mind of how it sees things is really important. And it's definitely something I would recommend doing. As you're doing this, there's going to be so much discomfort. As you start allowing your mind to bring up all of these perceptions, you're going to start becoming aware of how you see the world. And it's going to be so against how you actually think you thought you seen the world that it's going to be really jarring. It's going to make you feel really disconnected between who you are and who you thought you are. So the existentialist philosophy is that we act out what we think, not what we say. So you might say that, oh, I value health and I value being courageous and I value being confident around women. But then you look at your actions and you're acting in a manner that's completely disregarding all the things you just said. That's what you truly believe. You truly believe what you're acting out, not what you're saying. And your ego does a great job at cultivating these ideas around the facts that I'm someone who does this, I does that. And you start saying these things to yourself and a part of your ego believes it, but the true part of you, the shadow part of you, what you truly believe is what you're acting out. So look at your actions as well. Become aware of how you're behaving. Are you binge eating all the time? Are you not working out? Are you being lazy and constantly going on your phone? Are you not pursuing a date in life. Because if your actions aren't in line with what you're saying, your actions are actually truly what you believe and not what you're saying. So become aware of your actions, because everyone must lead with action first. So it's going to be difficult, because you're going to actually start seeing the inconsistencies behind who you thought you are and who you actually are. And this disconnect is so frustrating. Like, I know intellectually that I can be confident around women, that I can go out and have a good date in life, that I could go out and be a really good PT. But I look at my actions and I see myself procrastinating on all these things. And it's so frustrating, because I'm just like, ow, what are you doing? Like, why don't you just do the things you know you should do? And then this creates shame, it creates insecurities. But by becoming aware of this, I can actually start improving on it. And slowly but surely, I am getting better at these things. But without becoming aware of it, I would just be completely ignorant to what my actions were. I wouldn't even be aware of the fact that I'm procrastinating on talking to women, or that I'm procrastinating on working or working on my PT. But because I'm aware of that, I can actually start chipping away at that and start freeing myself up to take action without being a slave to my own faulty perceptions. So start becoming aware of these things. And as I said, it's going to be hard. It's going to cause you to be depressive. It's going to cause you to be anxious and beat yourself up. But this shame and this guilt that comes from this is part of the process, because it's you integrating your actions and your behaviors into one and becoming whole. All of this shadow stuff I keep talking about comes from Jungian psychology. And for those that don't know who Carl Jung is, he was I think it's a psychoanalysis. I think that's how you describe it. And the way he's seen the mind was very different to how like the psychologists see the mind. He's seen the mind as it's got like different layers, and so instead of the way the psychologists see it is like a conscious and a subconscious, which is like just the same mechanism. Carl Jung's seen that instead of just being a conscious and a subconscious, we are made up of subcomponents of personalities. And we have like this super ego, which is our persona that we portray to people. But behind that, we have like we have personalities that are cultivated from archetypes. We have subcomponents of personalities, as I said before. We've got our shadow side, which is parts of us that we don't want to deal with. We've got the collective unconscious, which is a process of billions of years of evolution influencing the way we act and behave, like the systems of the dominance hierarchy, or the systems of sexual attraction. These are systems that have been evolving far beyond our conscious awareness, and they're influencing our behaviors and acting. So Carl Jung's seen the mind in a very like flux and dynamic way. He's seen that he kind of described it as our personalities are playing out like mini dramas, and our job is to integrate all these little personalities into one whole version of us, which is our self-actualized version. And so the shadow part is a huge part of that, because if we're not becoming aware of the shadow side of ourselves, if we're not having the courage to face our insecurities and our anxieties, then that's going to be a part we're not integrating, and that's going to come out in these subcomponents of personalities. This is why you have a version of you that's like confident around some people and then really lacking confidence around other people. Or when you're hungry, you see the world from the eyes of someone who's hungry. That's because we've got different personalities in our brain playing out all these different roles, and they've all got their own goals, and they've got their own aspirations or insecurities and anxieties. And this shadow work and this internal work is all about finding these different subcomponents of personalities and integrating them into one, becoming aware of them, accepting them, and then working on integrating them into your life, using their energy in productive manners that can allow them to embrace who they are instead of suppressing them, because the more you suppress them, the more they build up dark negative energy, and they sit in the shadow. And as I said before, they influence your actions and behaviors. I thought that was just important to tell you why we're talking about the shadow so much, because yeah, Jungian psychology is interesting. It's a really cool way of seeing the mind. So this Joseph Campbell quote that I always say in the podcast is the perfect example of why this work is so important, and it is: the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. Like, the insecurities that you hold, the anxieties that you have, by tackling them and embracing them and proving them wrong and going out into the world and utilizing them to your productivity is the way that you're going to channel that energy into your character and start building up courage and start building up that process of self-actualization. So you need to go and enter the cave and slay the dragon that's holding the treasure. You need to go and do the thing that makes you scared. Is it talk to that girl? Is it go and get a new job? Is it to move location? You need to start on the process, on the journey of tackling that. You need to embark on your own hero's journey, because the longer you misplace your actions and you don't go out and tackle these insecurities, the more they're going to grow and the bigger that dragon's going to get. So go out there and tackle your insecurities. With that quote, I think it's really interesting as well when it says the cave you fear to enter, because I think without this inner work, without the stuff that I've been talking about, or becoming aware of your insecurities and anxieties, you're not even aware that a cave's there. I remember when I was like 16, like 15, 16, and like I didn't even know what social anxiety was. I didn't even know that was a thing. I just always felt uncomfortable in social situations. But I was not aware that social anxiety was a thing. I was not aware that I had social anxiety. So I could never tackle that. I just felt like I was inherently broken, that this was just life, that life just had to be lived like this, and I had to go out and drink and smoke to get myself away from this. But by building up awareness, by becoming aware of the fact that I got anxious around women or I got anxious around these people, that was the first realization into, wow, I can actually do something to overcome this. I can start cultivating steps and working out a plan to actually improve my life. But without the awareness, I didn't know this. I would have just carried on in a perpetual state of distraction and just acting out how I thought I was meant to be. So that inherent belief of I'm broken was just because I wasn't aware of the fact that something was going wrong in my mind. I just thought that was just naturally how things were. So to like step on this process of self-actualization and improving yourself, you need to identify the cave. What is the thing that is making you insecure? What is the thing that's making you anxious? Become aware of that cave, and then you can enter that cave and you can cultivate a plan. But first, you need to become aware of that. And there's a few like methods that I've used to do this. First is meditation. Meditation itself has been such like a big tool for me for not just dissociating away from my thoughts, not just building up concentration, but understanding the mechanics of my own mind. Because I've sat down and meditated for 5 years and I've allowed myself time to be still and be present with my thoughts, I can see the common theme of the thoughts that arise in my conscious experience. And these thoughts that come up in your mind, they're not you, but they're coming from a place that is inherently intertwined with everything you believe and think. They're coming from your perceptions. So if you can start noting to yourself what sort of thoughts you're constantly having, then you can start becoming aware of what you need to do to like tackle your insecurities and your anxieties. So let's say, for example, you never meditated before and you live in this perpetual state of attaching to one thought to another. You're never having a break to observe the thoughts and think, oh wow, I shouldn't maybe... Oh, I'm thinking about approaching women loads. Maybe I should actually go and do that. Or I'm constantly wishing I had a better date in life. Maybe I should like work on that. Or I'm constantly disregarding my own ability to go out and achieve goals. Maybe I should work on improving my ability. You haven't got the ability to step aside your thoughts and look at them objectively and start making a plan. But the more you meditate, the more mindful you become of the mechanics of your own mind, the greater ability you have to start working on yourself, the greater ability you have to start taking them thoughts out, dissecting them, seeing where they're coming from, and start realizing that these are things that are important to me and these are things I need to improve on. So meditation obviously is about dispelling the illusionary sense of self. It's about realizing that you're not your thoughts. But without that realization that you're not your thoughts, you can't work on overcoming your insecurities, your anxieties, because you're constantly going to be your thoughts. To overcome your thoughts, you have to realize that the thoughts aren't you. You have to look at them objectively and you have to take actions that disregard the beliefs and thoughts that are holding you back. But without that ability to step away, you're never going to be able to do that. So the next thing I would recommend that I've done recently, which I think has been a reason why I've actually had struggled so much recently, is I've been doing active imagination. I've been questioning my dreams. I've been interpreting my own dreams. This one's really difficult because you're actively playing with your imagination. So active imagination meditation is where you sit down and you pretend that you are integrating yourself with your imagination. So when you have a thought and your mind plays out this story of you going out and speaking to a girl, or you going out and living this life that you want to live, when you get these imagistic thoughts in your mind, that is your imagination. And what active imagination meditation is you speaking to your imagination, playing with it and looking at the characters that come up, or looking at the environments that come up, and being inquisitive and asking, why is this happening? And it's kind of like letting your imagination take over you, and you're integrating yourself with it. And by doing this, you find out like things that need to be improved about yourself, because that is not happening for no reason. When you have these imagistic thoughts of you going approaching that girl and something weird happening, or you going out and approaching the girl and getting her number, when you play these little scenarios out in your mind, what is happening, what your imagination is doing, is it's getting what you think is important, and it's playing out a mini scenario to see how that will happen, or how that will play out, to see if it's safe for you to do, or to see if it's productive for you to do. And if you're not aware of this, it's just going to happen and you're not going to take action on it. But if you can become aware of your imagination, and you can see how, like, every time I walk past a pretty girl, I get this story playing in my mind that's me like walking past her, tapping her on the shoulder and going, hiya, how are you? I just thought you was really pretty. Is there any chance I could get your number? And you play this story out in your mind, or you play this story out in your mind of you being this shredded individual who's got massive muscles and a load of friends. That is your imagination playing out its desires in a way that's trying to get attention to your conscious experience for you to take action. I hope that made sense. So playing with your imagination, you can start getting understanding of your unconscious desires. You can start getting understanding of the things that need to be dealt with, and that is, again, developing the understanding of your shadow side. It's realizing that my mind's playing out these scenarios because it wants me to take action on them. It's not just doing it for no reason. It's just magically happening. It's unconscious desires and parts of my shadow that need to be integrated. The next one is dreams, and dreams are very similar to this. Like, this active imagination meditation and dreams are doing the same thing. So if you can start becoming aware of patterns that you're having in your dreams, and you can start becoming aware of things that are happening in the dream world, you will get images, and you will get ideas of what you need to do to take action in your life. What dreams are is the gap between unarticulated knowledge and knowledge. So before you get an articulated understanding of things you need to do, before you have a plan of, right, I'm unhappy with my job, I need to go out and apply for new ones, that is going to sit in your mind. It's going to play out in ways that's trying to understand what you need to do next. So you'll have dreams about you maybe going out and doing another job, or you going out and experiencing the life that you want to experience. And this is your mind trying to articulate. It's trying to get to your conscious awareness the fact that something needs to be taken. So it's the dreams are the gap between unarticulated knowledge and knowledge. It's the gap there that's slowly making you understand that this thing needs to be articulated and it needs to be taken action on. So if you can integrate yourself with your dreams, you can understand that I keep having a dream about approaching women or having a good sexual life, or I keep having dreams about like accomplishing all these goals or overcoming these insecurities, or I keep having dreams about something negative happening. That's your mind trying to get you to articulate this important thing so you can take action on it. So dreams are telling you, they're literally like guides of, right, here we go, this is important to you, like understand this and go and implement it into your life. So a good book for that is Interpretation of Dreams by Sigmund Freud. And also, if you just read a lot of Carl Jung, he also talks about a lot of interpretation of dreams and how to do that. And it can be heavy, it can be hard. Also, like, dreams are very hard to remember. They've got this magical way of just like disappearing from your conscious awareness. Like, you can wake up and go like, oh, that was a mad dream. And then within a second be like, what was that dream about again? So it's hard to do, but the more you train yourself to do it and the more you start becoming aware of your dreams, the better you can integrate them into your life and use them as guides of what actions to take. The last way of becoming aware of the cave that you need to enter is journaling. I love to journal because like journaling is very similar to like what I said in that dream sense. It's kind of getting ideas in your mind and articulating them in a structured way that you can fully understand. And when I journal, I sometimes just let my mind go like blank and just type whatever comes to my conscious awareness. And this is a process of me stepping away from my own mind and just letting it articulate what it needs to articulate. And the amount of understanding that you can get by the way you perceive the world or the way things that have been happening in your life is crazy when you allow yourself to journal these things. So journaling for me has probably been my most understood and used technique to really understand what I need to do next. And it's really allowed me to understand and develop an understanding of who I am as a person. I don't know where I'd be without journaling. It's made me become mindful of who I am as a person. It's allowed me to become articulate. It's allowed me to understand the ideas that are constantly floating around my brain. And again, when you're journaling, you can dive deep into your preconceived judgments about things. The way you see the world, you can journal about that and understand why you see that. You can get into childhood traumas. You can get into faulty beliefs and perceptions about things. Journaling is so important. There's a reason why like Marcus Aurelius and all these like famous philosophers has always journaled, and it's getting unarticulated knowledge into an articulated plan. It's bringing everything to your conscious awareness. It's kind of sort of your mind's like muddled with all these thoughts and emotions and feelings, and it's kind of like clustering and it's really unorganized. And what journaling does is it takes all of these unorganized things one by one and puts them in an organized manner into a framework of thinking that you can understand, you can comprehend, and then you can take action on and implement. So yeah, journaling's another great tool for that. Once you've understood the things that make you anxious, once you've identified the cave, now it's time to set out a plan and take action on that. And this is where on the hero's journey, you've become aware of the things you need to do. And maybe you've got some resistance to actually tackling it. You know that like women make you anxious. You know that you need to go out and have a date in life or a better date in life. You know that you need to go and earn money and sit down and really dedicate yourself to learning a craft, a skill that's going to allow you to monetize that later on. But now you've got so much resistance to doing that. This is where the plan steps in. This is where you need to sit down, go, right, I'm going to commit to this. I'm going to do this in this manner, and then go out and tackle it. You need the courage to actually go out and manifest these things into reality. If you're just constantly in your head, understanding your own insecurities and your anxieties, you're going to just, it's a good thing because you're becoming hyper aware of the insecurities and anxieties. But if you're not putting them into practice, if you're not going out there and actually implementing them into your life and making improvements, they're just going to be reinforced, and you're just going to have more anxiety and more depression because you're going to be aware of what you need to do, but you're going to be aware of the fact that you're not doing it as well, and that's going to beat up your self-esteem. Guys, I hope I'm not talking too quick in this. I just realized that I'm talking at like 1,000 miles per hour, so I hope this is comprehensible to you. If not, let me know, and I will actually actively slow down my speech. But I just get so passionate about these things, it's easy for me just to rattle off things in my consciousness. So yeah, once you're aware, you need to go out and take action. And taking action is going to be the hardest part. Just as hard, to be fair, it's just as hard as letting your mind become understandable about the things that are making you insecure. But taking action is the part where you're actually going to actively disprove these beliefs. Like if you have this inherent belief that you're someone who can't speak to women, and you go out there and start speaking to women, you're going to start getting evidence that you are someone who can actually speak to women. And that evidence is the best way to deprogram the faulty perceptions. So the more you go out and take action, lead with action, the greater you're going to build up evidence that you are someone who is different to the faulty perceptions that you have. It's that Alex Hormozy quote: you don't get confident by shouting affirmations in the mirror, but by having an undeniable stack of proof you are who you say you are. Outwork your self-doubt. And the more work you put in, the more actions you take, the more you lead with action, the greater you're going to disprove and deep root these faulty preconceived judgments you have about yourself and the environment, and the more you can start replanting new ones of ones that are actually based on evidence and ones that are going to support you to live a better life. But if you just sit in inaction, you're actually going to reinforce the beliefs about yourself that you're someone who can't speak to women, or you're someone who can't get a job, you're someone who can't achieve his goals. So lead with action, because this is going to be the biggest evidence to disprove your preconceived judgments. And action's the hardest bit, because it's the bit that like paralyzes you. It's the bit where like your anxiety is going to flame up the most. If you've got this inherent anxiety, or if you've got social anxiety, I don't know, if you've got insecurities about your own inadequacies in the work world, when you actually go out and start trying to disprove that, your whole body is going to try to avert away from that situation. It's going to try to prove that you're someone who can't do it. And this will come up from the physiological effects of anxiety. It will come from the thoughts of like self-doubt. But you need to realize that this self-doubt and this feeling of social anxiety, this feeling of I'm not good enough, is just the old suppressed version of me trying to hold on to his foothold in my mind. And the more I push through this, the more I actually do what I set out to do, the more I move into a fully integrated version of myself. And that part of me that is holding me back finally gets integrated into the self-actualized version of me, and it gets used in a productive manner. And you can actually start using self-doubt and insecurity as positive energy to move forward. You can use anxiety for this job that you want to do to fuel you to be more diligent, and to fuel you to start making progress more than other people. You can start using the fact that you might get anxiety around women as an indication that you're doing the right thing and you're approaching more women and you're gaining confidence. And that seed of self-doubt gets turned into your biggest asset. But that only works once you've integrated the shadow side of yourself and you've actually started disproving the preconceived judgments that are holding you back. So that is everything I wanted to say, people. I don't know how long that podcast was. I hope that was super helpful. I do realise I talked really, really quick, but I just want to reinforce the fact that you must take action. Do not do what I've done and become so invested in the internal work without the outer work as well, without pushing myself out my comfort zone. There needs to be a balance. Everything is the yin and the yang. We live on the border between order and chaos. And you need one foot in order, you need one foot in your daily routine, you need one foot in the fact that you feel comfortable, but you also need the other foot in chaos, the things that make you uncomfortable, the things that push you out your comfort zone. And inner and external work is exactly the same. You need one foot in the internal work, you need one foot in the exposure in the external work. And you do this, if you can do this correctly, and you can do this in a symbiotic relationship, you sit on the line of self-actualization, and that's when you'll feel fulfilled. That's when you'll build up confidence, and that's when you'll feel like you are making the progress that you need to make. Remember, we sit on the line between order and chaos, so live your life in that manner. So thank you very much for listening, people. I really enjoyed recording that episode. I hope you found loads and loads of value in that, and yeah, I'll see you all in the next episode.